All right, y'all. So before we get into the next video, I got a question, man. Like, I don't know if it's been my entire life, but it feels like majority of my life. Have you guys noticed as well as always something negative surrounding Disney? Like, is it just me? That's why I'm posing the question to y'all, to make sure it isn't just me. If it is, then maybe I'm wrong. But it just feel like that. This video here is titled, Disney Closes Its Water Park. The reason why is creepy. All right, so we're going to get into the video. If you're new, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and join the fam. And let's check this out, man.
While their outward aesthetic may be one of family-friendly entertainment, the truth is there is a dark underbelly to the empire Walt Disney built. When that giggling mouse steps out of the way, you'll see there's more than meets the eye. These are 20 secrets Disney doesn't want you to know.
Number 20.
Most of these we probably gonna be familiar with.
Disney's first water park, River Country, and its mysterious closure. If I told you that the Walt Disney Company let a full theme park rot away in the middle of Walt Disney World for almost 2 decades, would you believe it? We'd forgive you for being skeptical, because this story certainly sounds like the opposite of Disney's usual MO. Yet, it's true. Disney closes its water park. The reason why is creepy. River Country opened on June 20th, 1976, close by to the Fort Wilderness Resort and Campground. The water park was one of the first major additions to Walt Disney World after its grand opening 5 years prior in 1971. Not only that, but River Country was also one of the earliest fully themed water parks in the world. The theme was Tom Sawyer's Swimming Hole, and it featured super cool things like large water slides, an inner tube river, a sand bottom lake, and a play area with tire swings and
that's some of y'all parents out there, by the way.
bridges. Most of these attractions would become industry standard at water parks all over the world. By 2001, the complex had expanded to include 3 more theme parks, over 30 hotels, and 2 more water parks. The latter would be the beginning of the end for River Country. While the park was revolutionary when it opened, now it not only had been surpassed by other competitors, but also by Disney's own Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach. Less and less people visited River Country until it had to close. Number 19. Walt Disney would have hated the iconic Partners statue. Not many people know this, but the iconic Partners statue that welcomes visitors in the hub just in front of the castle's elaborate entrance would not have been approved by Walt Disney himself. Despite being a beloved part of the park, a statue that thousands, if not millions of guests have taken photos of, if Walt Disney was still alive, the statue wouldn't even be there at all. Why? Well, while he was still with us, Walt Disney was rather extremely adamant that he never wanted a statue of himself made. Certainly not one that would be placed in his theme park, to the point that he gave his widow, Lillian, instructions to respect his wishes after his passing, which...
apparently nobody listened. I hate when people do that, man. Why y'all wait till somebody passed to do the complete opposite of what he would have wanted? Don't you want to honor the person? I thought that was the whole goal and objective.
She did for decades. So Walt never commissioned a statue of himself. He thought that statues are only for dead people. But it would seem that Gibson, the artist responsible for the majority of sculptures at the park, like the one of President Abraham Lincoln, and a Disney legend at this point, tried to make a bust of Disney to present to him as a gift. Of course, he didn't receive the reaction he was expecting back then, but he never destroyed the bust. That's how they got the proportions right for the sculpture we can see at the park today. Number 18.
Maybe that's why they have some negative things that have happened to them throughout the years. Maybe that's where it starts at, right there. Take that down and maybe stuff will stop happening.
Disney jail is real.
Heard about this.
The last place in the world that you would imagine has a real jail where people get locked up for misbehaving is probably Disneyland, right? Well, it would seem that people misbehave everywhere, even in the happiest place on Earth. But how can a theme park that's meant for family fun time address the issue of people doing what they're not supposed to? With a tiny little jail and dozens of security guards trained to be as discreet as possible. Disney has, in fact, employed a number of secret procedures to ensure incidents are well taken care of, of, but without drawing too much or any direct attention to the matter. And this is not as easy as it sounds, especially with so many guests present on the premises at all times. There are undercover cops and smiley security guards roaming the park at any given moment, and they're so good at their jobs that they constantly and often reprimand uncooperative guests in broad daylight without any other guests noticing. Imagine that. Despite this being a happy and fun place, that doesn't mean that serious actions don't have very real and serious consequences. As they say, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. Some people have even gotten banned from Disney parks forever. Number 17. Mickey is hidden all over the parks. There's a super fun scavenger hunt you can do at the Disneyland Resort, and not a lot of people know about it. As soon as you walk into the park, you'll start noticing there are hidden Mickeys all over the place. Disneyland Park, Disney California Adventure Park, Downtown Disney District, and the 3 on-site hotel properties. All these places are riddled with hidden Mickeys. There's a guide that'll help you locate the more obvious ones, but apparently nobody's been able to spot every single one. A hidden Mickey is the old-school depiction of Mickey Mouse's classic shape of 3 circles that form his head and his 2 ears.
Who would have thought that? See, that would have made me mad right there. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? No, it's not possible. You know what I mean? And then that's just another way for me to get even more tired of walking around that place trying to find it. That would frustrate me.
They can be made out of any material you can think of, including plants, decor, tools. They certainly get creative hiding them. Do you think you can spot all of them?
No.
The idea came from the designing of Walt Disney World's Epcot in the 70s and 80s. The new park is considered to be more inclined for adult visitors as they included alcohol and they took away the characters. So since the classic characters were no longer present, they had a little bit of fun by hiding Mickeys all over the place. It is a Disney park after all, isn't it? Number 16. Cinderellas Castle has a secret suite. So apparently, Disney World has a secret hotel room inside of Cinderella's Castle, and it is the most exclusive room in the whole park. You can only stay there if you are personally invited. In other words, you get invited if you are a celebrity or super mega rich. But now you can experience the secret Cinderella room vicariously, as Disney has recently revealed what it is to stay there. They actually posted a video on their official TikTok account, but this room wasn't always just an attraction. In fact, it has lots of historical importance attached to it. The Cinderella Suite was originally built for Walt Disney himself, but he unfortunately died before he could ever stay there. Many A-listers and VIPs have stayed at the secret room, which also opens on occasion for competition winners. Amongst the superstars that have stayed at the Cinderella Suite are Kevin Jonas and his wife Danielle in 2010, Tom Cruise and his daughter Suri in 2012, Mariah Carey, Nick Cannon and their twins in 2013, Neil Patrick Harris with his husband and their twins in 2013, and also Katy Perry in 2014. Some rumors have been going around claiming that one family offered the park $40,000 to stay for just one night, but they very politely declined. That's how exclusive this room is. Number 15.
That's actually a smart business tactic, I can't lie.
There are human remains in the Haunted Mansion. Despite the fact that a haunted house attraction is supposed to be scary, you would never expect to find actual human remains there, right? Well, at the Haunted Mansion ride at Disneyland, that is the case, and here's why. David Koenig, a former Disney employee, wrote in his 1994 book called Mouse Tales, the story of a group of tourists that requested a little bit of extra time on the ride. They simply wanted to hold a quick memorial for a 7-year-old boy that had recently passed away. Considering the awful moment the parents were going through, Disney gave them permission, but it would seem the memorial was not the only thing the family had planned. They had also planned a sort of burial. The group of mourners were spotted sprinkling a gray powdery substance off the doom buggies. Yep, you guessed it, it was the little boy's ashes. The attraction was immediately shut down until all the human remains could be completely removed and cleaned up. But apparently, this was not an isolated incident. Lots of people decide to scatter the ashes of their departed all over Disneyland. Some of them do it without even...
I feel like then the next time I go, I need a discount. You know what I mean? I wasn't never told that. Can you imagine touching something that has got someone's ashes on it, breathing in someone's ash. No.
Been asking, fearing that they wouldn't be allowed inside the park. However, every year, several families ask for permission. Rest assured, the answer is always no. Number 14.
That's crazy.
Epcot was meant to
And
be
then people doing it without asking, right? Exactly.
a real city. Did you know that Epcot stands for the Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow? Originally, it was a concept that Walt Disney had imagined for a planned community. Of course, he never got to finish it. The concept was developed by WED Enterprises in the 60s. Walt wanted Epcot to be a real city that would never cease to be a living blueprint of the future. In other words, a city that would house its workers, and he would be the president, so to speak. And it wasn't just a vision. Walt Disney was supposed to be a huge part of the Florida project, what we know today as Disney Orlando. He even purchased a massive property of undeveloped land there during the 60s. Walt wanted Epcot to be a utopian autocratic company town completely controlled by himself. The city would feature commercial, residential, industrial, and recreational centers, all connected by a giant multimodal transportation system. The more you think about it, the scarier it gets. A city controlled by one man that pays everyone's salaries and that owns all the infrastructure sounds a little bit like a dictatorship, doesn't it? He claimed he invested in this concept to try to fix the chaotic and inefficient nature created by urban sprawl during the 60s, but some people believe that the city plan was a tad totalitarian. What do you think? Number 13. The horses on Main Street really are louder than the average horse. No sound says classic small-town America like the sound of a clip-clopping horse, don't you think? At least the people at Disney definitely agree, and that is why they've made some changes to their horses. When you walk down Main Street, you will hear a particularly loud sound of horseshoes all the way through. This is due to the fact that the horses at the theme park wear very special shoes that are coated with polyurethane. Not only does this give the horses better traction as they walk up and down the street, but they also make them sound louder, so everybody gets that old-timey feeling. The clip-clopping sound transports you instantly, almost like being in a movie. But this is not the only funny anecdote that involves loud sounds and horses at Disneyland. When Walt Disney first opened the park, they trained the horses to prepare for huge crowds by having them walk in a tent with loud noises blaring at them through speakers. The horses currently housed at Circle D Corral still go through a process to introduce them to being on stage, but the blaring speakers are long gone because several animal protection associations complained. Each horse gets a minimum of 30 hours of training before going on stage. Their work days are 4 hours long and they get a 2-day weekend. Number 12. The boats don't really float. Making a man-made river or lake deep enough where boats can actually float wouldn't only cost a fortune, but it would also be quite unpredictable to work with. If the water freezes or if the boat tilts for whatever reason, people can be in danger. And the engineers at Disney knew this, so they had to get creative with all the rides and attractions that involve a boat. The solution they found is quite simple yet effective. Instead of floating around, the boats are all on tracks.
Yeah, you can see it.
Welcome to It's a Small World.
Pretty much like any other ride at the park, only this one has a bit of water to give kids the illusion that they are floating around.
That's what I was about to say. You wouldn't think it's on one because of the water, because of how much water it's in. You know what I mean? Then when you look off to the sides, it looks like the track is like centered of the boat. So when you look off to the sides, you kind of don't see the track. You know what I mean? Pretty smart though.
In fact, they
Smart.
put dye in the water so the guests can't see the tracks hidden just under the surface. The river around Tom Sawyer Island is dyed green and brown, and there's only about 18 inches of water depth. But it would seem that 18 inches is more than enough because the illusion is perfect. The huge boat really does look like it's floating. Number
Smart.
11. Why the waterways are so green. Did you know that all the waterways at Disneyland are interconnected? They designed it this way so that they may go through a natural process of filtration and destagnation, just like natural lakes and ponds do. Also, by connecting all the waterways, the rivers and moats could act like a single body of water and prevent fouling like an abandoned swimming pool. Yikes. They're all connected via underground tubes that allow aquatic life to pass through. When Disney opened the Rivers of America, the water was a brownish, sickly color due to the soil and mostly natural clay that kept the water from sinking. But it wasn't very appealing, and all the rivers and moats were eventually embanked by concrete anyway. At this point, they didn't want the guests to see the pipes, guidance tracks, and other hidden functions under the water, so they had to find a solution to make the water not clear. They decided to dye the water green with chalk, seeing as chalk doesn't settle and it doesn't bother wildlife. Number 10.
Yo, they go to great lengths to create those illusions for us, man. That's insane.
Wait times are often overestimated. The only downside of a theme park, even the best ones, is the massive and never-ending lines.
Yes.
Probably half the time you spend at the park is wasted in queuing
Yes.
in line. It's frustrating. And
Yes.
the people at Disney know this all too well. So they devised a plan to trick people into thinking it's not so bad. As we all know, the most amazing rides at Disney often come with very, very long waits. Actually, if you want to go on the iconic Space Mountain ride or the Peter Pan's Flight ride, they always tell you that it'll probably be 80 minutes of wait. That's a lot. Too much, even. People can start to get a little angry. But as it turns out, this is also a trick from Disney. The wait time is not really 80 minutes. It makes total sense. If they tell you that you have to wait for 80 minutes
Longer,
and then it ends
and
up
it's
being
less.
less than that, there's no reason to complain about the wait time.
See that manipulation right there? Tell you it's longer, but it's actually not that long. That way you feel good about getting there a little bit in less time. You know what I mean? 80 minutes, but you get in there on the ride in 60 minutes. You're not as mad. Manipulate.
Right? It's all about increasing guest satisfaction. You see, 50 minutes really cruise by when you expect to wait for almost an hour and a half. You get super excited that the wait time is less than you thought, and they get to keep selling stuff to you. Everyone wins.
That's crazy.
Number 9.
Smart.
Most of
Smart.
the American flags at the park aren't regulation. If you've ever been to the United States, seen an American movie, or basically know anything about their culture, you know that American people love putting American flags absolutely everywhere. Now, of course, Walt Disney theme parks, the pride of any red-blooded American, is no exception. Not only was Disney a very proud American, but he also exemplified the American spirit of exceptionalism. For instance, still today, there are rides such as the Hall of Presidents and the American Adventure in the Disney parks. And while each theme park also has a huge flag at the entrance, there is no place where the American flag is more predominant than on Main Street, USA in the Magic Kingdom. In that place, there are flags atop each and every building. Yeah, that's a lot of flags. But it would seem that they aren't really American flags. If you take a closer look, you'll notice they don't have 50 stars, but 45. They did this because if they were real American flags under regulation, per law, they would have to take them all down every night and then put them back up in the morning. And yeah, that would be very time consuming. So they decided to display something that would still have that all-American feeling, but not all the hard work that the real thing comes with. Number 8. Animal Kingdom sign has a dragon for a reason. If you look at the Animal Kingdom logo in Disney Park, you'll probably notice that there's an animal that isn't quite like the others. A lion, an elephant, a rhino, and a dragon. Dragons are very cool, sure, but last time I checked, dragons have never existed outside of myths, legends, or fantasy novels. But that is exactly the point of this logo. Believe it or not, dragons were actually a part of the original Animal Kingdom concept. In fact, the winged giant lizard was meant to be front and center in a long since forgotten part of the park that was called Beastly Kingdom, as in beasts that don't necessarily exist, like unicorns or griffins. Beastly Kingdom was meant to be the showstopper of the second part of Animal Kingdom, and it was meant to be located in the part of the park that is now home to a little magical land called Pandora. Beastly Kingdom was also meant to teach children about 3 types of creatures: real, extinct, and imaginary. When Animal Kingdom first opened up in 1998, they had already built the first 2 sections, and they had full intentions of bringing the imaginary section to life later. Alas, it never really happened, but the dragon kinda stayed on the logo as a reminder. Number 7. They constantly pump scents through the park. Sorry to
What?
break the illusion, but Disney's theme parks are not just a magical place for children to have the time of their lives. They are also huge, well-oiled, money-making machines. Disney is a company, after all, worried about making healthy profits. At the park, while the atmosphere, attractions, and characters contribute to the whimsical feeling and the overall sentiment of wonder, the people at Disney spend a lot of resources making sure that not only will you leave with fresh and new lifelong memories, but also that you spend the most amount of money while you're there. So, what can trigger both the inner child in all of us and also get people loose with their wallet? One word: sense. Smell is one of the most powerful senses when it comes to unlocking or engraving a memory in your brain, and Disney knows that. Their solution is quite simple. They incorporated pleasant aromas via smellitizers that pump out powerful scents in a very discreet yet precisely timed manner. For instance, they'll make sure you smell a delicious and appetizing candy and pastry scent near the bakery and confectionery on Main Street, so you'll feel more inclined to purchase some baked goods and candy.
I'm mad, but it's smart at the same time. You can't get mad at it. You know another company that does that nowadays? If you walk into like your local malls and stuff like that, maybe an outlet or something, Aunt Annie's. Soon as you walk in, it feels like it could be on the other end of the mall, but you smell it, right? And you instantly. But even if you have the urge to fight it, who gets you every time? Your kid. Your kid. And they know that as well. If they get to the kid, they can get to the parent. It's smart. It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Number 6. The Matterhorn has a secret basketball court. Have you ever noticed that the Matterhorn bobsleds never quite reach the top of the fake mountain? This is not arbitrary, as the upper third of the mountain is actually open inside. Want to know why? Well, there's a bunch of stuff up there. There's room for storage, staircases, and the park's secret Matterhorn basketball court. Okay, I know what you're thinking. How could an entire basketball court fit up there? To be honest, it's not a Regulation Pro basketball court. It's a small one, granted, but it has a full backboard and net. The court is located in the small attic-like space in what used to be a sort of break room for the cast members. You may not know this if you're too young, but there used to be climbers going up and down Matterhorn Mountain all the time. They were actors, of course, there to enhance the show, and like any other worker, they needed to go on breaks. But where to go on a break when you're climbing up and down a mountain? Well, at the top, of course, and that's how this secret room came to be. They installed a little basketball court to pass the time and have some fun. Today, it's kind of abandoned, but it's still there. Number 5. The Twilight Zone Tower of Terror screams are fake. By this point in the video, you're probably getting used to the idea that everything in Disney's theme parks is fake, and the screams you can hear when you're close to the Tower of Terror located in Disney's Hollywood studios are no exception. You can even hear the screams coming from the top of the tower as you walk down Sunset Boulevard. But as it turns out, the screams aren't actually real. In fact, according to a recently published report, the screams are pre-recorded. The next time you're around the Tower of Terror, listen closely. You'll find that the screams are a little too similar, not to say identical, each go around. They made this so people will want to go on the ride, simple as that. They even studied the acoustics of the site and strategically placed speakers on the walkways near the ride. It is an awesome ride for all the adrenaline and thrill seekers out there. For those who've never experienced it, it basically drops the guests directly into the Twilight Zone every few seconds. Well,
I feel so manipulated, bro. So manipulated.
It might feel like they are, but they're not. In fact, they are being pulled. Some very smart engineers have come up with a kind of technology that pulls the elevator car down faster than gravity itself, which results in the awesome butts off the seat levitation kind of effect we all love. Number 4. Real human skull in Pirates of the Caribbean Disneyland. I know what you're thinking. Why on earth do they allow a real human skull being showcased in a theme park riddled with children and toddlers? Well, buckle up, because this story is wild. So imagine giving your body to science, thinking they'll use your remains to help cure a deadly disease, or to make a breakthrough in medicine that'll save millions of lives. That's the kind of thing that most people that donate their body to science have in mind.
Right.
But instead of that, imagine you end up at an amusement park scaring the bejesus out of the guests. Not quite what was expected, but for some, this is a very cool way to spend eternity. Or at least they did when the ride first opened its doors in 1967. Every single one of the skeletons were actual human bodies.
Never ever have I ever heard someone say, when I go, I want to donate my body to Disney. I've never heard that before, bro. Something's not right here. This one here, yeah, I'm not buying this one. Something ain't right with this one. We need to do a little bit of digging. That's all I'm saying.
And, well, he probably replaced them all by now, but you never know. The ride was originally imagined as a walk-through wax museum, but Walt himself rethought that after the outstanding success of the 1964 World's Fair, when the company debuted audio animatronic characters and people in the Carousel of Progress and Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. About the same time, Disney also decided that moving people quickly on boats through a ride was a better and more efficient way than simply walking, so he decided to employ the same method in his brand new pirate attraction. Number 3. A complicated tunnel system runs under the Magic Kingdom. There's a complex system of tunnels under Disney's Magic Kingdom. The system is known as the Disney World Utilidors, and apparently it's pretty huge. Much bigger than what people imagine. At 392,040 square feet, it's fair to say it's not a tunnel system for ants. In fact, it covers quite a large area of the Magic Kingdom, almost all of it actually. The only part of the park that doesn't have underground tunnels is New Fantasyland. This is because Mickey's Toontown was added in 1988, therefore it wasn't part of the original park. But why did Walt Disney want so many tunnels under his park? Well, as we mentioned earlier in the video, Walt had imagined an experimental community where people would live and work without having to leave the park. This idea was called Epcot. The tunnels were meant to alleviate the problems of traffic and pollution for the Disney World community. After Disney's death, the Epcot idea was dropped, but they still integrated some of the tunnels for Magic Kingdom. Today, it's used for deliveries to the shops and restaurants in Future World. Number 2. Cats roam Disneyland for mouse control.
Heard about this.
As we all know, Disneyland only exists thanks to a very special mouse called Mickey. But that doesn't mean that all mice are welcomed in the park. The real-life mice and rats that always live in such places are a big issue, as they carry diseases and are just not great for business. But having a crew of exterminators always on site wouldn't look very good and would be rather expensive. So, what to do? Well, the people at Disney found the perfect solution. At nighttime, with the veil of darkness, the park is visited by hundreds of feral cats. And park officials let them, for one reason and one reason only: mouse control. They let them roam free as long as they come when there are no visitors around. After all, the guests are paying their tickets to see a park full of cartoon mice, not a park full of real ones. Rather than spending the time and resources chasing the felines away, they decided to put the cats to work. And there are a lot of benefits that come with the job. During the day, these corporate cats get to lounge peacefully and relax in any of the 5 permanent feeding stations. And at night, they get to catch as many mice as they want. Number 1. The characters sometimes get sued.
Huh?
Who would sue a beloved children's cartoon character? Could you imagine Winnie the Pooh in court, or Daffy Duck? Preposterous.
What?
Well, apparently, Disney's characters have actually been dragged into courtrooms more than once. Well, not exactly the characters per se, but the actors inside the costumes. The question is, are the cast members really misbehaving, or is there something else going on? As recently as 2008, a woman sued Disney because she felt that a cast member dressed as Donald Duck had behaved and touched her inappropriately at Epcot. The lawsuit was settled. In another instance, 2 families accused Disneyland cast members of racism towards their kids. The first family, whose last name is Black, claimed their child got mistreated during an interaction with the White Rabbit character at Disneyland Resort in Southern California. The little boy in question was only 6 years old at the time, and it was on the day of his birthday. The parents claimed that the White Rabbit character purposely avoided to interact with the African-American child due to his skin color. And this has been going on for decades. One of the first cases took place in the early 80s when a performer playing Winnie the Pooh was accused of slapping a little girl at Disneyland. During the trial, the performer actually delivered part of his case in full costume. As you can see, it's not all magic and whimsical characters at Disney theme parks. The people at Disney are very good at illusions and tricks. Some can even change your behavior completely. What about you? Even knowing all this, would you go back to one of Disney's theme parks? Tell us about it.
Some of y'all getting ready to go. It's getting close to the summertime too, family vacation. You might have went for spring break that just passed. Had you known some of this, you might would have looked at it a bit differently. You know what I mean? The smells part, you probably would have fought back a little bit as far as how much money you was gonna spend, because you was like, they not gonna get me. When you know something, you fight back a little harder. You know what I mean? So here's the info. Do what you please with it. This is the information they gave us. Y'all get at me in the comment section. Let me know what you thought of this video, and stick around and stay tuned. Till next one, I'm gone. Peace.